All right, I got Justin Wolf on the show today. He's the co-founder and the CEO of New Brew. Justin, welcome to the show, brother.
Joel, what's up, man? Thank you so much for having me on. Really excited for this conversation, dude.
Yeah, man. Likewise, pumped to have you on. Got a chance to try your drink, New Brew, which is really a take on, getting away from alcohol, I think, which is really cool. As a holistic health practitioner and someone who really values my health, I do like red wine. I do like alcohol every now and then, but I know fact of the matter is it's a neurotoxin. It's bad for me. It's my body has to process and get rid of it. And so if I could imbibe in something that didn't have any deleterious effects, but could give me similar, just relaxing or grounding effects, I would drink it. And I don't know what you're going to tell me, but that's kind of what New Brew can do. So, dude, talk to me about just like how you came about and wanting to create it and what was the impetus and yeah, talk to me more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, New Brew was very much born out of my own personal journey away from alcohol. I left alcohol behind 2.5 years ago now. And, I can get into all the reasons for that. You covered one of them, which is that it's a toxin for your system, right? I could feel that it was really destructive for my health. But it was also creating a lot of social harm. It was harming my relationships. It was making life a little bit harder to live. And once I made that tough choice to just cut the cord, leave alcohol behind, I started to get really curious with the non-alcoholic beverage market that's really blossomed over the last 5 years, especially. I'm sure most people are familiar with it. If you go to the grocery store or liquor store, there's a whole section of alcohol alternatives. So I got very experimental with those drinks, and I found a lot of stuff that I liked, like non-alcoholic beer, for example. I love the taste of beer. Didn't want to let that go. I found some brands that I really, really like there. When it came to the mocktail market or the sort of functional alcohol alternative set, I was pretty disappointed. Most of those beverages rely on active ingredients like CBD or adaptogens or nootropics, all of which are things that I have used for health reasons, right? And they can be effective in improving your immunity or cognitive function, but they do not create an experience. They didn't deliver a true set of effects. And as someone who had left alcohol behind, uh, but yet was still open to the idea of shifting my consciousness, I felt kind of let down. And I identified what I saw as a gap in the market. There really wasn't an alcohol alternative that delivered true tangible effects. And so I sort of had this idea running through my mind in the months after I had quit drinking. And in that period of time was on vacation with my wife and stumbled into a Kava bar and tried Kava root and Kratom leaf for the first time as a mixture together, actually, in a coconut shell. And I was just blown away by the set of effects. I felt a lift in my mood. I felt very open hearted. I felt grounded, calm, a little bit of increased focus and energy as well. But I wasn't sloppy in any way. I wasn't inebriated or intoxicated or impaired, any of the words we would describe, that we would use to describe alcohol experience. I was actually more connected to myself. I went and got a workout in right after. I didn't get hungover at all. So my mind was pretty blown, as you can imagine. Like, how have these ingredients not found their way into the ready to drink beverage market and into our ceremony of drinking that we all partake in, right? And I immediately brought the plants home and started to do a lot of trial and error and figure out how do we get these ingredients into like a great tasting beverage that's readily available for consumers in the US. And that was the beginning of what eventually became New Brew. There was a whole year of iterations and formulation, but what we landed on was this euphoric seltzer that's really like a light sparkling tea. It does have a little bit of caffeine as well, but it relies on kava and kratom as the two primary active ingredients to deliver a true experience. And it's something that is helping a lot of people move away from alcohol, and still have a sense of like groundedness and connection when they're out sharing drinks with people.
Yeah, massive. Really good stuff. And it actually tastes well too. So thank you for that. That's always the biggest thing.
Yeah,
I'm a guy who will, if it's good for my health, I'll drink the worst protein shake in the world if you tell me it's good for me. And
same.
the same thing, like with Kava, um, I have started imbibing on Kava probably over the last 2 years. And for people that don't know, it's a South Pacific root and very common in the South Pacific. And there's bars and ceremonies and things like that. And I have just found it doesn't taste the best. It's a root, so it's like you can make it yourself and you
Yeah.
can, squeeze in the pulverized root into water. That's what it is. It doesn't taste great, but like you mentioned, the euphoric effects and just feeling very just grounded, not sloppy, just very just an almost meditative grounded state. I love it. And I don't get any of the impairment effects. I don't have the health effects. I don't feel bad the next day. I mean, you feel fine. You can do whatever you can go drive. You're fine. So
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
really just transitioned over to Kava more and more just for all those reasons. And so this is huge that you're putting it in a can and making it, flavorful and easier to drink and just readily available. I think that's just really smart.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, it does get you some of the benefit that you're looking for with alcohol in that it helps you connect with other people, but I think it does so in a very different way, right? Alcohol is a disconnector. It's a numbing tool. So it makes you really disinhibited, right? So when people are out drinking, they get a little bit disconnected from themselves and they're more likely to just be open and share whatever. With Kava, I feel like you actually are more dialed in, you're more connected to yourself. And so the way that you share yourself with other people is a little more authentic, right? When people have conversations with Kava, I think they're actually listening to the other person. They're not just thinking about what they're going to say next, right? They're not talking over people. It creates like a different environment. And that's why I'm not just excited about New Brew, but I'm excited about this whole movement and the way that people are communing around these new beverages, right? It's a different vibe that this endures, which is like to me the most exciting because yeah, I think that there's a real need to move away from the stranglehold that alcohol has had on this social ritual of drinking, which is the way that people gather together, right? We need other options that produce less toxic environments.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know if you already knew this, but my understanding is uh, learning from someone else that kava in the South Pacific, it's very common. Like they will use it, they will drink over kava anytime they're going to make big decisions. And so, or like,
Yeah.
something that could even like be like a fight amongst families. All right, well, we're going to come together and we're
Uh
actually going
huh.
to talk over kava to your point, saying, hey, like, because they know that's going to create that open heart effect and that we are going to be in communication. So really to your point, I mean, massive, right? Like to imbibe in that kind of way. I think that's really cool. Talk,
Absolutely. It's sorely needed.
yeah, talk to me about the about kratom or kratom. I never partook in that, so this was a new one for me to see how the synergy of these two ingredients could enhance or uplift me even more. The only thing I know about kratom particular is that it's great for pain relief. However, there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of problems with the manufacturing and getting good quality, I guess, strains. And people that there's been a lot of regulation over it because people were selling kratom in all these shops and there was really no regulation and there was a lot of bunk kratom to my understanding. So just talk to us
Yeah.
about why someone would even take kratom and the sourcing that New Brew partakes in so we don't have to worry about some of those problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So kratom is an evergreen tree. It's native to Southeast Asia, so countries like Thailand, and Vietnam, Indonesia, um, and in those countries, kratom is very much a part of the culture. It's primarily used as a productivity tool. So folks will brew big bags of kratom tea and drink them throughout the day when they're out working. And in that kind of low dose, like as a tea, it's actually acts more like a mild stimulant. So the kratom tree is actually in the coffee family. Like if you go on Wikipedia and look at the, scientifically, it's like up and to the left from the coffee tree. So there's a lot of overlap there. Um, to your point, in higher doses, if you take, very high doses, something like 8 to 10 new brews worth, you get more of an analgesic pain relief type effect. And that's kind of how it's become best known in the US because we are amidst an opioid epidemic. Kratom has been turned to as sort of a natural alternative. It helps a lot of people, millions of people, uh, you know, get off of synthetic opioids like, Oxycontin, for example. And it's saved a lot of lives in the process. But I think what's been lost in the US's adoption of the plant is this sort of low serving size use case, where you get a little bit of mild euphoria, but mostly you just get a increased energy and focus. And with a product like New Brew, yeah, we're putting it out as an alcohol alternative, but it doubles as an amazing coffee alternative. It's something that you can have as an afternoon pick me up around like 2 or 3 p.m. You will cruise through all those emails you've been putting off all day. It'll sort of guide you into your workout, help you get stuff done towards the end of the day. So it's a very dynamic plant in that way. Like depending on how much you take, you can get a very different set of effects.
Gotcha. Okay, very cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know uh you could do the opposite, actually get energy from kratom. So I've never heard of that. Very cool.
Yeah, totally. And to your prior point, I think that in the U.S., the kratom market has remained, at least at the federal level, totally unregulated. The FDA has refused to regulate it, and uh, there are 10, 20 million people using it regularly. So it's kind of bizarre that they wouldn't put in, some standards to help protect the market. But because they haven't, the market has been flooded by a lot of unsafe products that are not lab tested. There's very poor labeling practices. So people don't know how much they're taking. They don't know where it comes from. There's no age restriction, things like that. And that's led to, some negative outcomes for people, right? Which tend to grab the headlines, of course. Um, this totally ignores like the low dose use case that I was describing. So what companies like ours and some of the other players in the kratom space are doing is pushing for regulations. And at the state level, kratom has been regulated in now 11 states through a set of legislations called the Kratom Consumer Protection Act. And that makes kratom either 18 or 21 plus. It sets standards for lab testing. Every batch has to be third-party lab tested for quality, and it requires a higher standard for labeling as well. So down to the alkaloid level, exactly what is in this product, so that consumers know what it is they're taking and have some guidelines around like how to use the plant. That's very much something we're a proponent of. So we're actively trying to self-regulate to push out some of the bad actors in the market, make it safe, help educate folks so that they know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's going to be really key because I think there's a lot of unfortunate, kratom's received a lot of bad praise, and that's only people they're seeing is just the headlines. So we don't know what's really behind, we don't know. We don't know that, hey, this could be actually really therapeutic and in small doses can be very good for you, right? So
Oh, absolutely. And I'll refrain from putting on my tinfoil hat, but some of those headlines are propped up by big pharma. Let's just be honest. This is a natural
sure.
alternative that's eating into their profits. It's not a coincidence that the few states that do have bans on kratom are also states that have huge opioid problems. And they want to make sure that if someone is trying to get off of an opioid like heroin or oxycontin, that they're going through the American healthcare system's path, which would include Suboxone or methadone. They don't want people taking plants. So some of the headlines that you see out there are propped up and elevated or amplified by big pharma, and in some cases, I think even big alcohol companies. They want to suppress adoption of alternatives like this at all costs.
Yeah. Yep. Makes perfect sense. What about for kava, there's obviously multiple strains of kava. You can have kava strains that provide more euphoria and other ones that are more that mellow kind of, calming. You maybe even want to go fall asleep. Are you looking at creating new brew drinks that will have different strains, or how did you decide to which strain of kava to use for this beverage?
Yeah. So with both kratom and kava, to your point, there are all sorts of different preparations. There are different ways you can tinker with the plant by oxidating it for certain periods of time. Growing it in different temperatures. There's a lot of ways to play around with it. What we do is we use extracts of these plants, so it's almost irrelevant, what exact species or strain this is coming from. We're pulling out the active alkaloids and then putting them right into the beverage. So you get, a whole set of kava lactones. That's what they're called from kava. And then with kratom, you're getting mitragynine, which is the key active alkaloid. as well as the slew of others. There's about 40 other alkaloids. We use full spectrum extracts. So what you see in the market for kratom, for example, is there's like red vein and white vein and green vein. That doesn't really apply when it comes to New Brew because we're just pulling out those active components.
Gotcha. Um, I'm curious too. Like I love kava and I drink a lot of it now. So for me, I got to drink a
Yeah,
couple new
and by the
brews.
way, you're using like a raw, like the bitter raw kava, right? Like the traditional use.
Yeah, I get it from a local kava bar out here. I have a milk bag and then I pour the pulverized kava that he sources and then I just squeeze it for like 15 minutes through the milk bag
Yeah.
and water and then I drink it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually really like the taste of that. It's super earthy. It's not for everyone, but
Yeah.
I'm into it. We try to let that show through a little bit with New Brew. You still get some of that like earthiness, even though
Yep.
we do use a little organic fruit juice and some sweetener. We still want it to be like complex and true to the the natural state of kava.
Yeah, you definitely if anybody's drank kava, you can definitely there's some undertones you can definitely taste it. So it's good.
Yeah.
But I was gonna ask you, for a guy like me, I probably have to drink like three new brews to like feel some of that
Uh,
kava, effect. Um, the amounts that you decided to put in there, like for the average person, are they saying like, man, like I really notice it or I feel it? And I guess my next question would be then, do you see yourself like making bigger dose drinks in the future, or like you can make the Joel 24 ounce, the 40-ounce Kava New Brew drink that I'll be ordering?
Yeah, uh, it's definitely possible. We have had some folks ask for like an extra strength or a more potent version of New Brew. We very intentionally added very small servings of both kratom and kava to this beverage. We want it to be something that for someone with zero experience whatsoever with these plants, they won't have an overwhelming first time experience with New Brew. Even if they like drink a full can, they're going to come out of it feeling like a little bit of the effect, but not any overwhelming amount of them. And we also want a product that people can drink more than one of, right? Like if you're at a party or wedding or whatever it might be, you want to not have to sip one can the entire night. You want to be able to have more than one. So it is very much the low serving use case that we're targeting now, but I can see a world where we, add more kava to future products, definitely. And we hear it just such a wide spectrum of feedback on the product. Like some people, one can is perfect, it's plenty. Others, like yourself, maybe have two or three in one sitting. I just recommend to anyone that they like kind of sip slow and assess their tolerance for it. Like maybe have half a can, wait 5 minutes, see how you feel, right? Because especially if you're new to these plants, you don't know exactly how they're going to interact with your own biochemistry, right? So just take it slow, and you'll figure out where you land in that spectrum.
Yeah, always smarter to when you're trying to reach a global market. You can't you can't go for high dosages. Even the supplement companies do the same thing. So you were very smart to do it in that low dosage. But yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah,
Any
no, totally. And
yeah,
there's the Kratom market in particular is made up of very highly concentrated products. So if you go into a smoke shop, let's say, and you look at their collection of Kratom products, they're going to be mostly like 4x or even 8x what you would find in a new brew. And it's just a different market that they're going after. We're putting new brew we're taking New Brew out of its traditional, not traditional, but where it's been stuck in the US in smoke shops and putting it in liquor stores and grocery stores and environments that are more like traditional retail environments, right? Where most people have never tried these ingredients. So we want to be mindful of that and make sure we're not delivering something too potent.
yeah, it's great because you get someone on a new brew and that might spark their interest to go, oh, I've had kava in this new brew drink. Maybe I'll go to a kava bar. Maybe now I'll drink that, right? So you're giving them just that little nibble, that little bit of an experience to then maybe go on and try other things.
Exactly. And we're huge supporters of kava bars. I mean, it's amazing to see those popping up all over the country. I think Florida is well ahead of the rest of the country. There's hundreds of kava bars there, but even here in LA, we've seen a few open up over the last year. In the Bay Area where I'm from, they're starting to pop up. Certainly in New York. And it's just really exciting. I think it just speaks to the movement that we're a part of, right? Like people are looking for functional alternatives and trying to reimagine the way that we commune around drinks. It doesn't make sense that alcohol is the only option there.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. Dude, what's new and exciting with New Brew? Anything that you're excited about in the future that's coming up? The pipeline, new flavors, new anything?
Yeah, so we are working on some new flavors right now. We're working on a whole different product line, which I can't talk about just yet, but definitely get excited for that. And primarily, we're just focused on expansion. You know, we launched New Brew exactly a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, March 1st of 2023. So we're still a baby, right? We're really young, but we're moving fast. You know, we started in LA in our own backyard. Um, by the end of last year, we had expanded down to Texas. We're now moving into Florida. And then New York is looking like probably our fourth market. So most of our focus has been on the expansion of distribution, which, you know, frankly, with a beverage product is a very complex endeavor. Fighting for fridge space with Coca-Cola, with Pepsi, you know, dealing with a very heavy product that's expensive to ship all over the country. It's a lot for a small team like us, but it so far it's going really well.
Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Dude, I want to wrap things up just in a little bit, but just anything I didn't ask you before we kind of wrap things up that you wish I had.
Um, yeah, I think that, you know, the important thing I want to get out to people is that it's really key for people to educate themselves on plants like kratom or kava before they go ahead and consume them. You know, it makes it tricky from a marketing standpoint for us because New Brew is not for everyone. And you know, I'm telling my story as someone who had a real issue with alcohol and for whom New Brew has been a godsend. Right, it keeps me from going back to alcohol. It fits that use case really nicely. There are some folks for whom New Brew is not the right fit. Right, if you're in hardcore substance abuse recovery, you may be in pursuit of 100% total abstinence, like you wouldn't use psilocybin or something like that, or cannabis. And I want to be really clear that New Brew is not a fit for those folks. So just for anyone who's curious about the drink, I would say go to our website, go to the Learn page that we have on there. There's a whole set of information when it comes to these two plants, their cultural history, the regulatory landscape, the science, the clinical data. Just educate yourself first. And I would say that's true with anything you put in your body. But just as the CEO, I want to, you know, proactively tell people to do that and find out if it's the right decision for you to try it out.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, it's like it's such a low hanging fruit, right? It's like, man, like I have an alcohol problem, or you just want to cut back on the amount of drinks you're drinking a week or whatever. Even like me, I wasn't like a big drinker, but every now and then I want to drink to just relax at the house. And it's like if I have something like this that tastes good, I'm gonna do this because it's just it tastes good and it doesn't I don't get the bad effects. I mean, I can't tell you even now, like I never get drunk, but if I were to just have a beer, let's say, like, "Ah, I just want a beer to relax, I feel inflamed like pretty shortly after
Yeah,
just having the one beer. That's the thing about
yeah,
these drinks. And I noticed a big difference. And I think if I'm any, like you said, if you're listening, just what harm do you have? Just try it. Like, if, because it could work. It may not, but it could. And if it does, man, that's going to do a lot for your health.
yeah, definitely. I'm so glad to hear you're enjoying it, man. It's for someone who takes really good care of their body like you do. Like you said, when you put something, a toxin like alcohol into it, you really feel it, right? And you feel it the next day. And for me, at least, like once I got into my 30s, I was having like 2, 3 day hangovers, even if I just had a few drinks. So, you know, New Brew stands in stark contrast to that. You're not going to have that kind of lingering effect. You're not going to feel like you're poisoning yourself. Again, you know, be mindful about your consumption of it like you would anything else, but you know, it's not going to, you know, eat into your week the way that something like alcohol would.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome stuff. Justin, talk to us. Just tell us where if people are interested in just learning about you and the company and what you guys are up to, where can they follow you on social and just kind of follow the journey? Or better yet, if they want to get some new brew and equip their household with it, where can they go to purchase them?
Yeah, definitely. So our Instagram handle is Drink New Brew. You can find us on there. Our website is drinknewbrew.com. We have a shop on there. You can order directly online. You can set up a subscription to get a little bit of a discount that way. We have 3 different flavors, by the way: berry, mango, and citrus. So you can find your favorite one. We have a sample pack, so you can just order 1 can of each flavor and kind of figure out which one you like best. And then I would say go to the store locator on our website too and see if New Brew is in stores wherever you live. You know, certainly in Southern California and in the Austin area and in Florida, there's a good chance there's a shop near you, and we'll be in one soon if we're not already.
Amazing. Justin Wolf from New Brew. Thanks, brother, for being on the show. I appreciate you.
Joel, you're the man. Thanks for having me on.